Hey y'all, it's Charlene from the Crafty Art Shack, and we're back here today with another challenge video. So let's get to the craft desk and get started, and I'll tell you more about it in just a few minutes. Okay, here we go with DIY number 1. Now for this DIY, I got some of the Jingle Blocks from the thrift store because we can't seem to find them in our Dollar Trees. So if I find them, it's usually at the thrift store. We're going to take one of these Jingle Blocks, and we are going to take some of these coffee stirrers, and we're going to cut these into little bitty pieces. We're going to make a piece for our house villages that we are going to set up at the end of the year. So if you don't know about that, we're going to be making houses each month or village pieces for the Christmas village, and we're going to put it up at the end of put it all together at the end of the year, and that way we'll have at least 12 pieces to go in it, if not more. Now that we have our little pieces cut, I've got these little spindle pieces from Hobby Lobby, and they were only like $1 something or $2 a pack. Now I'm going to glue these little spindles. You need 4 of them, and I think they come in like a pack of 8. The first 2 you're going to glue all the way down at the bottom. The next 2 you're going to glue at that little first little ridge, and the reason why you're going to do that is because when we put our canopy on our kissing booth, that way it will be at an angle. And so the next thing we're going to do is start gluing down our little bitty strips that we cut out of the coffee stirrer sticks. Now we're going to go all the way around the sides and around the front. Then once we get that done, we're going to take a longer stick and we are going to cut it into a piece and glue it and trim out the top of this little kissing booth. And I'm going to use art glitter glue and hot glue, and I apologize that I got this out of frame when working on these small pieces. That's really hard to stay in frame sometimes and get y'all a close enough picture of it. So I am going to glue one to the top, one to the bottom, and I'll do the same for the sides. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your little coffee stir sticks and you're going to glue one to the back and one to the front across the post, just like I'm showing you here. Now if you're wondering how to size up your pieces when you're making them, if you notice I've got one of the little village people out there, and I am making sure that it looks proportionate to my little village people. Now I'm going to glue those pieces across the front and across the back, and the side pieces I'm going to glue together. I cut 2 little pieces that will go from the front to the back, and then I'm going to glue it all together, and I'm going to place it on the top and glue it to the 4 posts. Now before I glued that to the post, I got out a popcorn bag that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I folded it just like I'm doing here, and I'm cutting little scalloped edges on it, but I'm making sure that I don't crease the paper because I don't want it, I want it to lay nice and flat. So then I'm going to stick my little frame that I made for my roof, and I'm going to fold it around my little pieces there, and then you saw I made a little mark, and I'm going to fold it forward first and then I'm going to fold it back. That way I know that where I marked it, it's going to be in the right place. And then I will trim up those sides and glue this to the top. Now I found that the easiest way to glue this was to turn it upside down and glue it with the top standing on it, and then where it's time to embellish it. Okay, I went back and took the top off because before the glue had a chance to dry, because I figured it's going to be easier to paint these little slats in the kissing booth with the crimson red chalk paint by Waverly, because it's easier to do it without that top on there. That way you can see everything. Then I went back and glued the top back on just like I showed you before. And then I'm going to take these little bitty hearts that I got from the Dollar Tree. It's the confetti, and I'm going to put some of these on the little tent-like top roofed thing, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm going to put a little heart on the middle of the kissing booth at the bottom. Now I didn't quite like how the sides looked where I put the trim on, so I took me 2 little sticks and I cut me some of them beads off of the heart necklaces that you get from the Dollar Tree, and I put the little stick there and sat a heart on top of it to make the booth look more attractive. Then I decided that it needed some little signs, so I put one on one side that says kisses 5 cents, and the other one it says pucker up. And then I glued them down, and I checked it with my little peoples back there to make sure it looked like it was the right size again. And then I ended up putting another little heart right in the center on the front, and then we'll see the rest of this at the final reveal. Today's challenge video is the Thrift Flip Road Trip hosted by the Crafting Cousins and Unicorn Dust and Designs. There's also a playlist in the description box. Go check out those ladies and gentlemen below, and you won't want to miss their videos because they're doing some awesome crafts. Here we go with DIY number 2. Okay, for our next item, I got this frame at the Dollar Tree, and it was 99 cents, and I'm sure I only paid half price because I bought 2 of them. And I took the picture out, and I took 2 napkins. I took the flowered one with the birds, and that love sign came from the Dollar Tree. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I paint everything white first, so that whatever color or whatever I do, it makes it pop with the design. After all of that's done, I'm going to, and it's good and dry, I'm going to take this piece of napkin and I'm going to take a glue stick. Now that's just a Dollar Tree glue stick, and it's been around for a while because it's kind of gummy looking. But I'm going to take and rub it all over this really good, and then I'm going to press my napkin down onto this. And we are going to try the fire method and hope we don't burn down the craft room. I do have a cup of water sitting here beside me just in case. Now I'm trimming off all the excess of the napkin that's around this, and then I'm going to take and poke holes in all of the spots that have like the little loop-de-loops and stuff like that, because if you don't pop the hole in there, then it's not going to burn away the napkin from the project. And then I'm going to just take and light it up. And like I said, I do have my bottle of water sitting here beside me in case I need to douse everything down. And I think this is so cool because this saves so much time in trying to cut things out. I did this once before, but it didn't turn out that good, and it kind of charred everything. But the problem that I had is I left too much of the napkin on there when I was trying to burn it off, and it caused it to leave brown spots on my napkin. It didn't look clean like this one does. So make sure you trim your edges. Now I repeated the same steps with the frame. Now what you see me doing here is I'm going over this after everything's completely dried, and I am Mod Podging all the way around this frame so that you can wipe it off later if it gets dust on it or anything like that. And I'll do the same for the love sign that I burnt too. Then when all of that dries, I'm going to take and glue that love sign down to my frame and put the picture back in it, the family that came with it, and then we'll see this at the final reveal. Now at this time, we'd like to thank our subscribers. We love you bunches, and we thank you for subscribing to our channel. It really helps us out. Here we go with DIY number 3. Now for this next DIY, you're going to need a plunger handle, and I cut mine 2 sides that I was going to need. And you'll see there's a big mistake with that in a few minutes. Then I thrifted these boards from the thrift store, and they were 7 of them to a pack, and they were supposed to be for grilling on. And I was like, I'm not putting these on the grill and grilling on them. I'm going to use them in my crafts. And so then I got this table from the thrift store, and they sold it to me for $1 because I rooted through the box and I didn't think everything was there, and I was right, they weren't. So I took these sides to the drawer, and it was missing parts of wood, so they sold it to me for $1, and I bought it. And then I got me 2 of these barns from the dollar store. Now I sanded all my pieces and got them ready to go. Now I took the 2 sides, and these sides had holes in them on both sides. So I'm only worried about one side. So I picked the side with the smallest holes, and I took this spackling and I filled the holes. And I wiped off the excess spackling, and then I'm going to fit my little barn house onto this, and I'm going to take and line it up with the bottom, and I'm going to brad nail it together. And no, you can't see the brad nailer because I've got my camera too close because I was working on that little project first. And then I take my other one and I nail it to the other end. Okay, so my original board I had my husband cut for me because he had the saw out and he was doing a project. It was too short, so I didn't want to go ask him to cut another one. So I figured out how to make this work. So I'm going to place this on here, and I'm making sure it's equal amounts on both ends, and I'm marking it. And then I'm going to nail the bottom on to my little barn tray that I'm making here. And this thing is going to turn out so cute. But he already caught me recutting the handle because my handle was too short. So I went and got another piece of thrifted wood that was a dowel rod with a little flag on it. And there you see the flag, and I'm going to take the handle off of it, and I'm going to recut me another handle and not tell him about it. But of course he catches me doing it, and he asks why, and I didn't have the heart to tell him I measured it wrong. So I cut me a new handle, and I just used my miter shears this time, and I worked my way around it because it was too thick to cut it, and I didn't want to go out there and tell him I had a problem again. So here's me trying to be like incognito. Anyway, I get the handle cut, I get it put in there, and I get it nailed in, and then I paint everything with a Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. And here we are after it's nice and dried because I let it sit overnight. And I took the stencil that said Farm Fresh, and I am going to make sure that tape is straight across my letters. And then it wasn't quite straight, so I went and put it on there again. And then I'm going to take my black chalk paint, and I am going to stencil on this Farm Fresh. I'm going to stencil this to both sides of my box, and look at that side, I messed it up. So look what I did. Oh my gosh, I made a mess. But luckily enough for me, that all wiped off, and I just re-stenciled it back on there, and we went from there. See, even the best of crafters make mistakes, but it's okay. It's just paint, and you can repaint it. If you can't repaint it, you can wipe it off like I did to make a big mess, or you can just let it dry and repaint over it. But it's just paint. Don't be scared to try it. And this time I didn't put as much paint on my stencil brush, and it came out much better. But see, I still had a few smudges in there, and I'll go back and fix that. The next thing I did is I painted both ends with the Crimson Red from Waverly, and that is a chalk paint. And I'll paint probably 2 coats on both of them, and it's, you know, I don't worry about getting too perfect of a coat because I like the rustic look. Now while all of that's drying, I cut me 2 little pieces of wood, and you can use the mouse traps for this and cut them down, or you can have 2 scrap pieces of wood laying around like I did. And then I took me 2 scrap pieces of paint stir stick and I painted them all red, and then we're going to trim them out with some white coffee stir sticks. Now you're going to want to get your tape out and your Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint and lay your stir sticks on that tape and paint them, and then they don't move on you. And after you get them all dried and painted, then we're going to cut them and trim out our barn doors. Now I cut all my little pieces to length, and I'm going to start gluing them down to my little barn door. And this is the loft door, and so it's only going to get a slat that goes across. It's going to get trimmed out all the way around, and then it's going to get a slat that goes across. The doors are going to get an X. And here's the little barn doors and what they look like after they get trimmed out. And I'm just hot gluing those down and cleaning up all the little glue pieces, touching up anywhere where the white, the brown showed from the white. And then we'll glue these to the ends of our house. Now here's what they look like glued to the end, and I went over my Farm Fresh after it dried with a piece of sandpaper, and then what you see me doing here is putting some of that caulk in the hole to fill in the nail. And now what I'm doing here is I'm getting me some raffia, and I'm going to cut it to look like hay. And then I'm going to get a little flower, and I'm going to embellish the end of my little Farm Fresh box with the barn on the end of it. And we'll see the rest of this at the final reveal. Now, this is a thrift flip road trip open challenge hosted by the Crafting Cousins and Unicorn Dust Designs. Go check out these ladies. Check out the ladies and gentlemen in the playlist below in the description box. And because you don't want to miss their videos, they're doing some awesome crafts over there. And here we go with the final reveal. Alright, y'all, we just got back from the craft desk, and aren't these adorable? That little kissing booth. Oh, I can't wait to set up the village at the end of the year. Y'all don't miss that. And this is so adorable, and the barn, I just can't decide which one I like. Which one do you like? Leave us a comment below and let us know. And we'll see you in the next episode. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. It's free. That way you don't miss the next episode of the Crafty Art Shack, because we're always doing something fun over here and making new things. And we'll see you in the next episode. See you later. Bye.
I know, it's a mess, and I need to clean it, and I will. Oh, I forgot to turn the camera off. We'll see you in the next episode. See you later. Bye.